Hey everyone, I'm on a bit of a bike trip today, so through some nature to get out of the city. And I thought I'd use this situation in a wonderful environment like this to talk about some things that were on my mind over the last few days. Because a few days ago, I think a week ago, Limited Run Games announced a physical Switch release of Grandia 1 and 2 HD, which came out last year, I think. And I was contemplating, do I want to buy this? And I came up with a few good points and a few negative points, and one of them was a deal breaker, so I'm not buying it. But that's very special to my situation that I have in my gaming life and my gaming collection, basically. I want to start and I want to share it with you in case anyone is wondering, do I want to get the Grandia HD Collection or do I not want to get it? And let me start off with some positives. We got Grandia again, so Grandia is relevant. You know, I'm a bit of a Grandia fan. And, oh, there's a bicycle, bike or something going on. Yeah, doing some off-roading, making some noise. Yeah, I'm a bit in the middle of nowhere. Let's get back to Grandia is relevant again. I'm a bit of a Grandia fan. I played the first one on the Dreamcast, and then I got a PS2 just to buy and play Grandia. I think I even got Grandia before I got the PS2. So yeah, that was the thing back for me. And yeah, it's relevant again. For a few years there was no mention of Grandia anywhere, and now it's back in the spotlight a little bit, so we can hope for Grandia 4. So the positives in this collection. Grandia 2 came out a few years ago as a HD remaster, and it is based on the Dreamcast version, which is good because the Dreamcast version was the best one. The PC version had problems, and the PS2 version was, I have something here, was a bit of a mess. They exchanged some of the real-time cutscenes, which were too complex for the PS2 to handle, into CGI pre-rendered cutscenes, which didn't look nearly as impressive in my opinion. Some people liked them, I do not. So it's based on the Dreamcast version, and it's almost perfect. So it's almost as good as the Dreamcast version, and it has a few extra features like widescreen, HD of course, things like this. And it got a few more translations. German and French are, I think, two of the new translations that you get for the Grandia HD Collection that didn't exist before. So Grandia really is a great deal. So get Grandia 2. It's one of the best RPGs I've ever played, and the characters, everything. It's even better than the first one in my personal opinion. Which is why I wanted to get the HD version, because I wanted to play it again. And then Grandia 1 came out, and that was a bit of a disappointing mess. Many of you may know there are two versions of Grandia 1. There's the original Saturn version, which only came out in Japan, and there's the PS1 port, which was downgraded in any way you can imagine. The textures are blurry, were exchanged for ugly ones, and they're warped into... sometimes you can't even recognize what they're supposed to represent. You can look at pictures comparing the two. It's terrible. The textures and everything in Grandia 1 for the PS1, I don't know who came up with that. There were a few improvements. Some water effects were improved, some transparency effects which the Saturn couldn't do easily were implemented in the PS1 version. So that's positive. So everyone was hoping that the HD port would be based on the vastly better Saturn version that was never released outside of Japan. And when the HD port was announced, they said, we are basing it on the Saturn version. Don't worry, it's based on the Saturn version. And I think they said they wanted to implement some improvements from the PS1 versions into the basically Saturn graphics and everything. And that they announced that, and then a few months or a year later they showed footage, and it was based on the PS1 version. You could easily see that it's PS1, the graphics, textures, everything looked much worse than the Saturn version. So that was a bit of a disappointment for many fans, because it was basically a broken promise. You got us all hyped for a better version of Grandia, and you gave us a improved bad version of Grandia. So that is the Grandia that's included in the HD collection for the Switch. That will be on the Switch, and on the physical limited run card. So that's a negative. So Grandia 2 is basically as good as you are going to get with Grandia 2, and Grandia 1 is basically as good as you're going to get with Grandia outside of Japan, which is disappointing. And there are of course many reasons to rebuy an HD port of a game. My biggest reason for these older consoles are wireless controls. So my living room isn't really set up anymore for wired controllers. I sit far away from the TV. My console is usually hooked up right at the TV. And to use wired controllers, I have to basically take my console, set it on my living room table, and then have my controller connected to that. So I have this long cable that's going from the console on the table to the TV. And yeah. For many people, a reason to buy it is that it's easily playable on HD TVs. That's not a point for me. I already have all of that set up. That's no problem at all. So wireless controls are usually the biggest reason for me to rebuy a game on newer systems. And I happily do that. I would happily do that for Grandia, but the problem is I already own Grandia. I already own Grandia 2. I have Grandia 2 on the Dreamcast, which is the best version of Grandia 2 you can get. So the only reason to upgrade to the HD version is 16:9 aspect ratio and wireless controls, which isn't really doing it for me, you know. So maybe if it was like 20, I would buy it, but not for 60 in a bundle. And then I would absolutely pay the $60 that limited run wants for the physical version if it had Grandia based on the Saturn version, which it doesn't have. And for Grandia, I already own the PS1 version, and I play that on a PS3 with wireless controls. So there's really no reason for me to upgrade. The only reason is 16:9 support and portable play for the Switch, you know, which is something for Grandia I don't really care that much about. And that's really the main problem. I already own everything that's on that collection in some way, and the upgrades I get from buying the HD version are so small that it's not worth the $60 to buy the limited run version. If it was 40, I'd buy that, but not 60, because really the benefit of playing on modern consoles, for me personally, who already owns everything he needs to play these games, is not worth it. And maybe it isn't worth it for you either, but maybe for you, you just don't care. Maybe you want to buy a better version of the PS1 port of Grandia 1. Maybe you only have Grandia 2 on the PS2, which for that, right, just get the better version, right? Either on the Dreamcast or the HD version. If I only had the PS2 version of Grandia 2, I would buy it. If I didn't have Grandia 1 already on the PS1, I would buy it, but I already own these versions. So I hope you could follow my thoughts on that, and maybe I could support you in your buying decision to get the HD port of Grandia 1 and 2. And I hope I see you again in the next video. Another look around through beautiful nature. Bye.